it's safe to say that growing up, around the age of 15 or 16, we all got in our fair share of mischief, right? Or was it just me? Because I'll be honest, I definitely was no angel. But back when I was growing up, and before I was growing up, back in the day, every friend group had a friend that had a cool parent that would let you hang out at their house or something along those lines. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes there's that cool parent that wants to party with you and be one of the teenagers. I'm not necessarily talking about one of those type of parents, even though I ran into my fair share of those type of parents growing up. But I'm talking about the parent that cared, that didn't necessarily view themselves as, a young kid that just wanted to have fun with their kids. No, I'm talking about the parents who would kind of be their mentality would be, hey, I'd rather you all hang out at my house than out on the streets or at the club or somewhere getting into trouble. You know what I mean? I'd rather you be here than out partying somewhere else, getting into Lord knows what. At least here at our home, we know you're safe. Well, in the modern day, I'm not sure how many parents like that there still are, but there's definitely some. And over the weekend in Florida, a group of teenagers got together to have a little sleepover. Instead of going out and partying here and going there, they went to the cool friend's house with the cool parent. And they were all having a sleepover that winded up turning into a complete nightmare, something out of a horror movie. Because apparently, we don't know the motive yet, but another teenager in the town was left out of this sleepover. And that teen decided that he was going to walk for miles and miles and miles to that home. He knocked on the door, and when the young teen answered the door, the guy started shanking him up. And then went for the adult in the house as well. Now, one of the kids at the sleepover unfortunately did not make it. The kid who was actually throwing the sleepover did not make it. And there's an unidentified adult that was attacked as well. We don't know if it's a parent or what yet, because as of right now, not much information has come out. But it's a sad sight to see. Because as I was just saying, back in the day, a parent would feel comfortable when, all right, my kid and his group of little friends, they're all at my house. I know what they're doing. Everything is safe. But now, stuff like that isn't even safe. Because unfortunately, kids these days are just, they're off their rocker. There's a lot of kids out here who are completely out of their mind. And it's sad. And don't get me wrong, bad things have always happened. There's always been those one-off stories, right, of crazy things happening. But these are no longer one-off stories. If something like this, like the story I'm talking about now, if something like this happened 30 years ago, it would be the biggest news story in America. They would make documentaries about it. They would make movies about it. They would probably make horror movies based on what happened. But now, in today's world, this is just another throwaway news story that you probably didn't even know happened. People who live in the same neighborhood probably have no idea that this even happened. Because that's how bad things are now. But before I go any further, let's go ahead and roll this clip, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
We want to get you to our top story this afternoon. This neighborhood you see here is now reeling from a double stabbing that left a 15-year-old boy dead. Good afternoon. I'm Darlene Jones.
And I'm Greg Wormuth. A 16-year-old is in custody right now. And Sumter County deputies say the violent attack happened during a sleepover Saturday night. The home is off of County Road 148. That's between County Road 44 and the Turnpike. Channel 9's Demi Johnson is live in the neighborhood. And Demi, you spoke today to people who live in the area.
I did, Greg, and they told me they heard screams coming from this home you see just over my shoulder. And not long after that, they saw deputies go into these woods right here where they eventually caught and arrested Hernandez.
Don't move.
When Sumter County deputies put 16-year-old Alexander Hernandez in handcuffs on Saturday, they found these weapons. both of which he told investigators he ordered just days before barging into a home where he stabbed 2 people.
When their weapons arrived on Saturday, he unpacked the weapons, played with them for a little bit, and then he walked nearly 6 miles to the victim's residence.
A 15-year-old named Connor Gill is dead, and a man is recovering in the hospital. Days later, the small neighborhood is still struggling.
Just not hearing and actually seeing stuff go down in this area is very scary.
Christina Atkinson knows the family and says she spoke with Connor's mom through text Sunday morning.
And she told me that Connor didn't make it through the night, but Jeff, supposedly he's still in ICU in Ocala. So I'm hoping they do something about this kid.
Marcelo Rizzuto recalls feeling on edge while deputies searched the neighborhood for Hernandez.
To have him caught was a blessing, so we're glad about that.
Deputies have not determined why Hernandez stabbed the pair, but say he did know the victim.
One thing is for certain, this was a violent and premeditated attack.
And right now, Hernandez is facing multiple charges, including premeditated first-degree murder and aggravated assault. Investigators say more charges could be coming. Live in Sumter County, Demi Johnson, Channel 9.
Now, as I said, as of right now, we don't have a motive. I don't know if this kid was like left out of the party and he felt some type of way about it, so he tried to seek out revenge. I don't know if he was being bullied by the other kids. The kid he killed is a year younger than him. Now, let me be clear here. Whatever his motive is, it's not an excuse for what he did at all. I'm just saying that right now it's really early on in the story and we don't have many details. We don't even know who the adult is in this situation who is in critical condition but stable. I think the adult is going to make it, but unfortunately the young kid whose party it actually was did not make it. But you know, taking one look at this suspect, he looks like the type that might be, he looks like the type that you might have to worry about doing something like this. But all in all, as stories like this continue to pile up, we're starting to see that, hopefully some people are starting to see that the weapon that's used is not the problem. We don't have a problem with inanimate objects. We don't have a problem with certain objects in this country. I'm sure you know what objects I'm talking about. We have a people problem. And you can take away every object in the world that can be used to commit a violent crime, and we're still, at the end of the day, going to have a people problem. And before we worry about any of these objects or taking any objects away from people, we need to focus on mental health in this country. And it's something I talk about so much, and sometimes I feel like I overdo it. Because every story, it's like we're talking about someone crazy, and I try to bring up this conversation, and I don't want to continue to beat a dead horse. But how long do we have to go through this mental health crisis in this country before people recognize it and do something? Do something. And I mean, when I look around at society, I can see plenty of things, plenty of factors that are contributing to young people and people just in general losing their minds. But it seems as if everything else, they'll bring up everything else but mental health, because they want to deflect from the fact that, our society and a lot of the stuff that our society has been pushing has cultivated and formed, an army of mentally ill people who are ready and willing to commit violent acts against innocent people at any given time. And as bad as I feel for some of these people who are dealing with these struggles, I don't think that the rest of the world, I don't think that all of the normal people in the world should continue having to live their lives in fear because of the mentally deranged people that are roaming our streets. At some point, something has to be done. Because you can say all day, well, our kids aren't safe at school. Your kids aren't safe at home either. Your kids aren't safe anywhere. None of us are safe anywhere. And you can arm yourself with whatever you want. You're still not safe. And it's become evidently clear. But we're never going to, or at least the way it looks right now, we're never going to have the conversations that are needed. So tomorrow or the next day, we'll be talking about another sleepover massacre. 2 weeks from now, there'll be another, mass event at a mall. And we're just going to keep going down this road while people argue about everything else but the problem. And that's so extremely frustrating for me. But as far as this story goes, I would provide more details, but everyone involved here, or most of the people involved here, are juveniles. So we can't get much information out of this case. As I said earlier, I don't know a motive. I don't know how many people were at the sleepover. There's so many details that are just, probably are going to be left out of this situation because most of the people involved are under the age of 18. But if more details do come out, I will let you all know in the near future. But for now, let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.